Well, here we are. What did we do today? That is a wonderful question. Oh, right, that's it. We left the Yellow House rather early and took a 2-hour drive down to Lamport Hall. Then it was off to Dean Park, and we were touch early to Dean Park, so I had a very quick wander around Kirby Hall, which is mostly a ruin, but it was great to see, so you'll see that in a bit. Then off to Dean Park, where we had a private tour and afternoon tea to follow. And then it was off to Welland Viaduct, which was absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a shot of the whole thing, but there we are. And then tonight we find ourselves at a rather delightful little B&B. And as for Lamport and Dean Park, they are still privately owned, so we're not allowed to take pictures. But that won't stop me talking about them, will it? Kirby, we do have pictures of the inside, but it's a little bit derelict. And then some pictures of Welland, and then a couple of pictures of where we are staying for the evening, which I'm going to leave as a bit of a secret. All right, so we drove off to Northamptonshire this morning and went to Lambton Hall. It was changed from a Tudor mansion to its new classical frontage and was home to the Isham family from 1560 to 1976. In 1568, John Isham, a wealthy wool merchant, built a manor house on the Lamport estate. His grandson, also called John, became the first baronet in 1627 during the reign of Charles I. He extended the house, and the only bit of the original house is in the stable still, next to kind of a rockery garden. John's son, Sir Justinian Isham, is credited with building the main existing building. It was commissioned to builder John Webb around 1655. He was to design a large 2-story home. Further additions were added and completed in 1741. And in 1842, further rebuilding on the southeast front was completed, and later Sir Charles Isham commissioned the building to have a new facade with porch to the northwest front. By about the 1950s, the house had deteriorated, and the owner, Sir Giles Isham, undertook major renovation works and allowed the ground floor to be opened to the public in 1974. Also go back and mention that Sir Charles Isham is credited with bringing the first gnomes to England from the mountainous areas of Europe, where he placed several of the little gnome-like figurines that he had brought back with him in the rockery he had built. Now, in the mountainous areas of Europe, the miners actually took these little gnomes down into the mines with them as like a good luck symbol. And Sir Charles thought that was quite sweet, so he put the little figurines, like I said, into the rockery. Unfortunately, there's only a couple that still survive. His daughters, when he died, went out and shot them all with their air rifles, even though he had kindly had a new parquet floor put into one of the larger rooms during the Victorian era to make it more pleasant to dance on them. So, not very grateful. Some of these places have such interesting little factoids. Anyways, I won't say much more as I don't think there's time for all of it without having interior pictures. Kirby Hall is next, and it at one point was one of England's greatest Elizabethan and 17th century houses. King James I was a frequent visitor. The hall was built for Sir Humphrey Stafford of Blatherwick beginning in 1570. Then in 1575, the property was purchased by Sir Christopher Hatton of Holdenby, Lord Chancellor to Queen Elizabeth I. It was based on French architectural pattern books and expanded in the classical style over the next few decades. Eventually, it was inherited by Edward Finch Hatton, the youngest son of the 7th Earl. During the 1780s, George Finch Hatton began removing the hall's interior and drastically changing it to more suit the 18th century style, while preserving the exterior. The hall started to see its decline when the family moved to their other newly built palatial mansion, Eastwell Park, upon completion. By the late 1880s, the hall was in complete ruins as the roof was sold to pay off some of the family debts that one of the sons had incurred. The building and the gardens are still owned by the Earl of Winchelsea, and it was designated a scheduled monument in 1927. I questioned when I got there, is this what they used for the movie Mansfield Park? And indeed, it is the 1999 version of Mansfield Park's version of Mansfield Park. It's amazing what a little bit of camera trickery can do to convince you that it's a fully functioning home, even though it has no roof to Fanny Price's wealthy relations. So there we go, a little bit of trick of the light and you have a fully functioning mansion. But I thought that was funny how I noticed it. And here we are at Dean Park. This has been the seat of the Brudenell family since 1514. The hall itself dates back to the 14th century and it has been modified several times since to create the current house. When we arrived, the swans were on the lake, the Highland cows were in the field. It was bliss. Several of the Brudenell family were the Earls of Cardigan, the most notable being the 7th Earl, who led the charge of the Light Brigade at the Battle of Balaclava in 1854. He died childless in 1868, and the Earldom of Cardigan merged with the Marquis of Aylesbury and still lived in by the family. They're not quite sure why they had their title as Cardigan, as the family is not Welsh, nor does it have anything to do with a cardigan that you wear. Also, fun fact, one of their symbols is the teapot, so you'll see lots of teapot topiaries and hedges, and it is even on the obelisk that you can see from the front door, along with some other themes in the house. And so was the seahorse. There's a lot of seahorses throughout the house as well. We got to see ever so many lovely swans on the lake and 2 black swans, but we only got a picture of one of the black swans. There was a lot of fabulous information about the family. The one bit I remember most closely is that the 7th Earl, who led the charge of the Light Brigade, designed the uniform of the Light Brigade, and they cost nearly £40,000 to outfit the troop. They were known for their red pants with the gold braid up the side, also known as cherry bums or cherry bims as a more posh version. And there was a pair of pants on display in the house. They weren't the seventh Earl's trousers by any stretch of the imagination. The family has a lot of his jackets, his uniform jackets, but all of his trousers have completely gone. It is said that his wife, Lady Abigail, would often be seen out riding, wearing her husband's red military trousers. So it's supposed that there's none left because she wore them all out. Oh dear. Well done, Lady Abigail. All right, off we go. We have finally reached the Welland Viaduct. There it is. This viaduct crosses the valley of the River Welland between Herringworth in Northamptonshire and Seaton in Rutland. It is 1,275 yards long, or 1.166 kilometers, has 82 arches, each with around a 40-foot gap or 14-meter gap. A total of 30 million bricks were used, and it was completed sometime in 1878. Look at that amazing structure. Too bad there wasn't a train going over it. There aren't often trains going over these viaducts much anymore, but maybe it's something you have to arrange in advance. You have to look at the train schedule, see where the train is going, and then you have to go and visit that day. Anyways, so this is all footage about Welland Viaduct, and then there's some pictures of most of it in a minute. We couldn't get a picture of all of it. We would have had to have a very, very, very high viewing point, I think, to make that happen with all the trees that were about. So enjoy the Welland Viaduct. least, but certainly not last, where we are staying for the evening, Godeby Marwood Hall. This 17th century house next to a 13th century church in the village of Godeby Marwood, just north of Melton Mulberry. In 1750, a new Palladian-style south wing was built, and the 180-acre estate was a subsidiary holding of the Duke of Rutland and a residence of his family members. We are staying here tonight as Vicky and her husband Henry came into the property in 2000s. It was virtually derelict when they received it, and they've worked tirelessly at restoring the house and redesigning the gardens based on 18th century plans. There is a stream, swans, all sorts to explore. I'm currently sitting in the kitchen having a delightful time working, as it's the only place in the house that the Wi-Fi works, which is all right by me. In 2017, a Godeby resident was doing some extensive field work in the area, as well as hundreds of hours put into wartime and family history research, as this area was also close to a lot of RAF stations. And the aim was to understand more about the known Roman British site located close to Godeby Hall. So they were looking for Roman coins originally. But while surveying the land, the farm manager at the time happened to mention the de Havilland mosquito that had crashed nearby just after World War II. Several years earlier on the farm, the manager had found part of the tail section of the mosquito in a wooded area and had kept it safe in the barn. The exact location of the crash is unknown. The field detectives were thrilled with this bit of information. I wanted to find the exact location of where the crash occurred. Anyway, the piece that was found is now a monument within the grounds of Godeby Marwood, and you can go and visit that, along with the story of finding that the pilot was not at fault for the crash. We have some delightful drone footage of Godeby Marwood and the valley, surrounding valley. And that's it, that's all. I'm off for bed. And I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy Godeby Marwood. Good night.